everyone. Welcome to the Love Foundry. It is the 19th, Monday, and we're going to spend a few minutes talking about this or that. It's sort of a follow-on after yesterday's conversation. I don't know how these podcasts are numbered or how I would tell you what yesterday's was. See if I have an idea here. Well, doesn't really matter at this point. So this and that, but it refers to this and that in love. And the other conversation yesterday was about the opposites and about the duality of that which is love and that which is the illusion we have in the world about love, which humanity suffers under due to its lack of discrimination in our experience of what is love, which is reality, which is the natural universe, and that illusion that humanity lives in, unconscious of that third aspect of life that has been revealed to humanity called love. It was revealed recently in universal time, probably several trillion years ago. So we haven't caught on yet. Here on Earth, we're sort of in a backwater. But we've had some difficulty figuring it out. And it's been a group problem, so we all share the same dis-ease, which is what's called suffering, which is the result of a self-conscious, aware organism like a human being being unconscious and unaware of the actual agency and power of love itself. Now, it took from the beginning of human time, which we don't know when that started, but it was certainly a number of millions of years ago. From the beginning of that until now, or 2,000 years ago, before we could actually experience the impact of love itself joining us for a continuation of our journey in an attempt to help us heal ourselves from the great disease of lack of love. Now, this sounds like a peculiar situation, but when you scrape away all of the superstition about it and the misunderstandings of what happened to whom and when, it becomes quite clear. It becomes something that even a child can figure out and understand. And I'm just trying to sort this out so maybe I can have the microphone a little close. Well, maybe I better just leave it where it is. If you can hear me, that's great. So the reason I'm taking up the this or that argument or conversation or point of view is so that you'll have a chance to look at why it's difficult for you and then be able to take some intelligent action toward redeeming yourself from that situation of woeful ignorance of love and begin to function with it in a more dynamic and intelligent way. Now, one of the problems is, and I come back to these things over and over, so if you miss it, don't worry, it'll catch up to you. Love does not appear in us between the opposites. And the opposites include, unfortunately for us, all of the emotional world. It's a material manifestation, which is why we have emotional opposites, positive and negative. And in the mental world, the lower half of the mental world, it doesn't appear there because that's a consciousness we have grown through our brain. And brain is made out of matter. And matter, dense matter, does not respond to love. So thoughts, images, ideas, and things that we cooked up in our mind between the opposites don't contain love. It simply doesn't live there. Now, the obvious reason it doesn't live there is that you have to take a whole before you can break it into two opposites. And those two opposites are halves. And when you put the two halves together, you have a whole, at least in that small area. And that wholeness, when you put them together, is love, because it's the separation of love into duality that creates the opposites. So that this may sound a little strange or unscientific or mystical or something of that nature, but we can't help that. It's a condition that arose out of circumstances far beyond the human stage of understanding how the universe functions. But it did arise, or we wouldn't be without it here in our consciousness now. Which brings another problem to the surface of your awareness, which is that, are you really absent the consciousness of love? And if you take, bottle of water, turn it into wine, you can't do that. But the mystery of the universe is that love can and did. And not only that, but about 45 gallons of it. Those were big jars. So what I'm saying is that the miracles, the miraculous activities of transformation and transmutation that love can do, we, unconscious of love, cannot do. And even if you are conscious of the great and noble power that love is, because it's actually in you, and you become aware of how it's filling you up, that doesn't mean you can direct it to turn a bottle of water into wine. You cannot. It must be right to do within the cosmic appreciation that love has of all things evolving towards perfect awareness of love. So we don't get that ability until we have far transcended the human state of thinking, if we ever get it at all. And I think that it's a mistake to think that Jesus turned water into wine. That would be a mistake, because you're assigning to him a talent and ability that he simply personally did not possess. But because at the baptism, love entered him willingly, and he welcomed it willingly, it was able to do it with him in a circumstance where it was deemed appropriate. So that's a theory, of course, but not to those who drank the wine, or to Jesus, who was amazed to probably watch it work, because that was the first miracle he performed. And he did it at the behest of his mother, who insisted sort of that he get on with the miracle business, because that he was there for that. After that, the miracles became more dramatic in some ways, like healing lepers and things of that nature, which he did with efficiency. And so the this and that I'm talking about here is the difference between you without the power of love in you to render these miracles, and you with that power in you. Now, the miracle of turning water into wine is a strange thing, but they were out of wine, and it was a wedding, and they were family or friends or something like that. So we'll assume there was some justification there, and love was being introduced to the world as something that was in Jesus. It was in him. It had taken residence up in him and stayed in residence with him through all of his 3 years of demonstrations unto crucifixion. And when he died, it became released into all of us, the rest of the human race, or the human kingdom. Now, what does death have to do with release into the human kingdom? I don't know. I don't know why it works out that way, but I know that now, from my experience, how it lives in my story, is that now we have the human race bringing it to the surface of our consciousness, bringing our abilities to interact with and relate to this great energy, this great being of love, this great magnificent creator of a universe. Living inside of a human being is a pretty remarkable idea, and to an astronomer, it would be ridiculous. because he would look at the sky and go, look, there's trillion stars out there and infinite number maybe of galaxies. We don't know for sure. And operating in ways that we haven't even thought about. So how can love be everywhere and all of that, creating all of that? Well, we don't know. But it is all there, and it is being created and sustained and moving towards an inevitable conclusion or purpose. So I wouldn't be too quick to rule out the divine power of love. It would be great if it is available to us around here somewhere, and we can come to a conclusion of how we could bring it about in our lives and bring it forward into our heart expression and into all of the things that we do with our life. To have that tremendous energy filling your body, your hands, your eyes, your heart, your head, and moving through your creations and the work that you do and sustain others with, that would be a remarkable thing and a desirable thing for a lot of people. Because it's a desirable thing for me, I pursue it. I pursue it not in any religious faith, because I don't subscribe to religion. That doesn't mean I haven't thought about religion or care about religion or have value in religion. That's not anything like true. I just personally don't follow any because I don't need to. I don't need to make a religion out of something that I already know is here for me. And more than that, I think it needs to be recognized as here in a different way than it was recognized 2,000 years ago. It's time to upgrade. That was true, I think, of the Jewish religion then. It needed to upgrade, and it refused the upgrade because the priests of the time, the authorities of the day, didn't want to. They didn't understand it. They didn't know what had happened. They didn't realize that circumstances upon earth had changed. And it was their own prodigy that did this. Jesus comes forth from the lineage of Abraham through David and on down to himself. And as he was foretold and prophesied, and does something utterly and completely remarkable. But stubborn-headed people can be stubborn-headed, and nobody can be more stubborn-headed than religious people, as far as I have observed, because they simply have grounded themselves to something that they think is unchangeable, permanent, and forever. And the Jewish relationship to Jehovah as a mentor and guide and God of their lineage seemed unshakable. Except that does not mean that it can't take a step forward into a deeper understanding of the livingness of a greater universe, which I think is what probably happened. I don't remember what happened exactly. I don't remember being there, so I can't tell you. Jesus could. He's around somewhere. Last I heard, he was in a Syrian body maybe half a century ago, but years don't mean much to these guys. So strange as it all appears when we throw these ideas around loosely and easily, like a loose cannon on a pirate ship, there are more truths than we think to these things. Now, how is it that some people kind of know this? And I will just tell you that the truth is always around, because there are those who, having engaged their heart and mind, intuitive mind, fully with love, can know what love knows. So they can report accurately, or adequately for sure, for humanity, what's true about love and certain other miraculous elements of the universe. And many of them have, and they have written down some things about it. And the interpreters of those things that have been written down are available, and you can find them. You can listen to them. You can read them. They're translated into English and other languages. But if you've compromised yourself with unbelief, certainty and falsehood, the fantasy and negative ideas that permeate the ego of humanity that resents, resists, and is hostile to love, then it will be difficult for you to find and interpret these truths related to this fantastic phenomenon called love. But if you'll give a little up in that certainty of negativity of what isn't, for the possibility of what is, then light can come in. And when light comes in, it reveals this much and then that much and a little more of that and a little more over here. And then you go, whoa, well, maybe Hercules really did live. And maybe he really did perform 12 tasks of himself to represent the difference between living as a personality and living as a soul. You see, that's all there is to the Hercules story, really, is a being of such strength and character as a warrior that he demonstrates 12 ways, according to the Zodiac, each one of which is a lesson in human learning. He develops 12 ways in which we can reverse ourselves from going around the wheel of time and the wheel of karma and the wheel of life in the direction of building the illusionary ego without love, to turn that thing around and go the direction of the wheel that builds us into consciousness with love, which would be soul consciousness, because that's the nature that is 100 that you already possess, that is 100% immersed in love at all times. But because of circumstances peculiar to Earth, the consciousness of that part of our anatomy doesn't make it across the life thread, the antikarana that goes through a human being from you to the soul kingdom and beyond that to spirit itself. That journey isn't complete in us. There's something wrong in there. And that wrongness causes terrible suffering, not just of humanity, but of the animal kingdom in which we are embodied and embedded, and all of the circumstances of our life. Now that can be fixed, that can be remedied, and it is being worked on and remedied by everyone who has a heart that reaches toward love, that reaches with intention. But it takes a lot of arm movement to bail the ocean out with a teacup. So until we get more proficient at using the psychic energies of the inner nature of ourselves to strengthening our relationship to love, it's been a slow, progressive climb. And we're still climbing, one bloody step after another. As they say, the journey's uphill both ways. So how are we going to look at this or that? And this is what I think is important. And it may not be, by the way, but it's what I think is important to the moment we are now in, which is just prior to what the Christians would think of as the reappearance of the Christ, which is really important, but nothing like what most Christians think it will be, or the discovery that love is actually a real part of the universe and available to everyone, everywhere, and we should get about the business of making that real. We're just at that cusp as we enter the Aquarian age, which is all about that, and that's a wonderful thing. But it isn't like switching a light switch on. You don't suddenly go, wow, that's love. Where's it been? Now I got it. Let's go. It would only happen like that in someone who has already had in their past, if their memory doesn't serve them, that's not their fault necessarily, because it could have been in a previous lifetime, that has already made that acquaintance and has solidified it and strengthened it in their character so much that it only takes flipping a switch in the lifetime they're in to turn it on again. But most of us, unfortunately, haven't had that much one-on-one experience with love. So the switch, you can flip it on, but the bulb itself is going to gradually, from a little tiny spark in it, it's going to just gradually grow brighter and brighter. With the illumination of the Buddha and the radiant heart of the Christ, you're going to have eventually a sun blazing out of you. Now, that journey from turning on the light, even though it's a tiny little flicker, to that radiant sun is a period of time. Long or short, it's a period of time of consistent and continued commitment to that light, getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and to your ability to interact with and increase your relationship to love, because it already lives inside of you and everyone else, to increase that relationship with it to the point where it starts working through you naturally, because you know what to do, you know what posture to be in order for that to increase gradually, 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 and steadily. And when that starts to become a world practice, because enough people start practicing it, that other people see it and recognize, wow, something really good is happening in those people, then we start taking advice about it and start practicing our own journey into love. And each one's journey is unique because our journey up to now has been unique for each one of us. And we have created our own individual karma and our own individual dharma, as they say in the Buddhist story. How hard it is. And do you see, just to use a word like karma or dharma, with a certain portion of humanity, starts walls going up. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as reincarnation. There's no such thing as this. There's no such thing as that. Because it wasn't in your Bible, or it wasn't taught by the Christ in the very short time he had to teach anything, let's not assume that that's all there is to truth. And this will become evident to humanity when there are more advanced teachers teaching the subject of history. The Babylonian history is not what you think unless you stop and take a close look. What they contributed to the human understanding is why we are able to do things today that we could not do before that, or the Greeks, or the Egyptians, or the Hindu. So these civilizations that have come, given their time to humanity, altered the world's consciousness by bringing in philosophy and science, and all the different gifts that come have all contributed. Without those gifts circulating in the consciousness of humanity, do you think really that we would be able to have experienced what the Christ experience was? That needed the foundations that were built before it. Now, you can dislike the people who built those foundations, but if you turn your heart against them, you're turning your heart against love, which worked closely with them to bring every inch of progress humanity has ever had. So we are only at war with ourselves when it comes to love by being at war with our brothers and sisters, and how we think about them and how we feel about them and how we build walls against their story. How we think those people that built the statues on Easter Island were built them to face something that wasn't real. Of course it was real. It was real for them. It lived in them. It just doesn't live in you. And because that memory of how it lived in them and what it was they were recognizing in the nature around them that they were in contact with, doesn't mean it wasn't effective or true or worthwhile or wonderful or any of those things. And we need to stop having this kind of prejudice of arrogance that think that time alone gives you superiority to those who are behind you in time. It does not. This is a big universe, and it's an old universe. So there are many things in it. As Shakespeare said, there are stranger things on heaven and earth than are known by man, Horatio. So let them be. Let them be there, and let them live there. Now, there are lots of lies. There's lots of misunderstoods. There's lots of complicated, irrational thinking going on. So not everything you hear is true. And that means you have to have doubt. Doubting is a wonderful thing. It protects you against being influenced by things that aren't real. So there's nothing wrong with saying, whoa, that's a great story, but that doesn't mean it's true, does it? No, it doesn't. But the wonder of it is that Christ consciousness, perfect love, is true. It does exist. And there's plenty of evidence for it. And there will be in the future enormous expressions of it as human beings, you and I, become capable of empowering our lives with that present, ever ready energy in such a way that it demonstrates the validity of itself. Why not? Now, that doesn't mean the entire material kingdom or plant kingdom or animal kingdom is going to suddenly start acting with it. They already are in certain ways, but we have self-conscious awareness, and animals do not have that. Your cat's a wonderfully smart thing and can push a bottle of ketchup off of the table if it wants to, but it doesn't mean it's doing it as a plot. It's just amusing itself with its instinctual responses. So don't be deceived. You are a unique creature. You are a human being. It's the stage of self-conscious awareness. Awareness of what? Well, it should be reality. But reality is made up of three ingredients: will, which you've got; intelligence, which you've got; and love, which you've got, but don't recognize, probably. You recognize that you love certain things, which means you're simply attracted to certain things. Beautiful people, beautiful food, beautiful movies, art. Sure, we love these things. We love a beach. We love good weather. We love being comfortable. We love pleasure. That does not make that word that you're using to describe your attraction to something a creative power. There is a creative power that pulls iron filings to magnets. That creative power is love, far more than your desire for a Costco hot dog. So let's shake out our heads a little bit and recognize that what I'm talking about, I'm not saying this is all true. It's only true for me, which doesn't make it true for you, and that's fine. But it gives you something to think about when you're looking at the world around you, and if your mind should come to the question of love, which it should, every human being, every single day, you should advance your interest in and your knowledge of love itself, not the love of great literature or the love that is demonstrated in Caesar and Cleopatra movie or something. Actual love, independent of all other things. That quality of life, that aspect of life that comes straight out of the outside of the universe place, wherever the heck that is, and pours itself into the universe to create an entire manifestation of life as a living organism, which the universe is. It's a temporary organism because universes don't live forever. Neither do solar systems, neither do constellations, neither do planets, neither do banyan trees or redwoods. They live as long as they do, and when they're done, they withdraw back to the source from which they came. And strangely enough, are not annihilated. That life, the redwood tree or whatever it is, will find a way back into manifestation again, because the place that it went to when it withdrew away from the material world was not outside of the embrace of love or life or livingness or creativity. It's a temporary refuge from manifestation, still well within the cosmic physical universe, which has many levels, many planes and subplanes, many energies and higher frequencies, many colors and higher hues and vibrations. So we can retreat to some higher vibration within that and then come back down to a denser flow. There's no law against it. It might not be true, but if we looked at it as if it were true, we might see it going on around us all the time. And then we might find ourselves being drawn to an understanding of what law is governing that. What law governs that rebirth of all organisms? We're going to discover together, it's already been discovered by some, by the Buddha and others, that this is a complex universe. There are an enormous amount of laws governing it, and rules, and principles, and they all have different relationships and different things. And it's okay, it's great, it's terrific that all of that is true. Too much to understand in a human brain. It's just a complicated organism. But so are honeybees, and so are orchids. They're complicated because they are manifest in the physical universe out of all of these energies. And whether it's an orchid or whether it's a constellation, Gemini, it's still a living, growing, evolving, natural thing. Now, I don't know what makes scientists deny reality, but in honesty, all they're really saying is I can't prove that Virgo is a living thing made up of stars for its chakras, as the Hindus would say. But that doesn't make it not true. But if they can't prove it, then they can't assert it in their conversation or structure. Well, that's only because they're scientists. If they go home to their family and have dinner and somebody says, hey, Dad, you're a scientist. What do you think about Virgo? Is that thing alive or dead? He can look at them and go, well, to tell you the truth, I don't know. We have no way to measure its livingness. Okay, that would be a fair answer, but it certainly doesn't mean it's dead. And being a Virgo myself, I will affirm that I think it's a pretty wonderful thing. So astrology and the livingness of life's rays, spiritual rays of existence, and the differences between those things, those are wonderful subjects to me of discussion and subjects to be thought about and talked about, and as is the idea of what are UFOs? Do we have space aliens running around? Do we have humanity on other planets? How's all that working out there? It doesn't violate anybody's laws of nature or laws of God or laws of spirituality or laws of love that any of that is or isn't true. If it's true, it's because the laws of the universe, life, and love are making it true. If it is true, then that's great. If it isn't true, then we'll figure it out and we'll let that idea go and we'll get different ideas. But the point of this little conversation today is what happens inside of us when we start here with the idea that just maybe love actually is a profound energy, and that I'm missing it inside my capabilities structure because I haven't made my relationship to it productive to myself. That might be true. It's if you look at the different things that we could make ourselves good at, and when we do, we now have that ability in us, then we say, well, it's similar to other things, riding a horse. If you're not good at it, you'll fall off. Sooner or later, that animal will shrug you off. But when you get good at it, then it's a natural thing for us. So once we start, and this is a place you will come to. I promise you this, because everything I know from my experience has told me it's true, and it's true inside of me, and it's true of my friends, and it's true of other people, and it's true of the Christ, and it's true of the Buddha, and it's true of the people who follow them closely. They're advanced disciples who live in the world and are way more than what we would think of as average human people. And that is that the better you get, the more you demonstrate of these truths. And when we realize that one of them is love, people who are really good at love, it's not accidental. They're good at it because they became good at it. Quite some time ago, they decided this is real. And this illusion of life without it being a power in our ability is causing us great suffering and grief, because love just doesn't automatically go, okay, you're trying to do that. Let me help you. Let me help you make that real for you. Because we don't know how to do it according to what love is willing to do It's not willing to violate your free will, so your free will has to conform to its laws of creation. And when you're due with your free will, it will, because it has no reason not to. Love doesn't make decisions that you're worthy and they're not. That kind of thinking about love is old prehistoric thinking about God. God is some thing out here that decides whether you're worthy or not worthy. There's no such thing. Because, as the Christ put it quite clearly, God is love. That's what it is. So when we look at the laws of love, when we look at how it conducts itself in the universe, we recognize that what it does is love. Always. Always. It never does anything else. We're so unfamiliar with its activity that we don't see how that transmutes evil into good. We don't see how that makes all things positive by the simple application of the power of love. The same thing that turned the water into wine or other miracles in or out of any religion, the same thing that makes those things happen works all the time, because love simply loves. It doesn't turn all grape juice into wine, because that's not a purpose that has been invoked that conforms with love's overall plan, which seems to be, if you look at it from back a ways, seems to be to convert the entire material universe into atoms responsive to love, whether they're human atoms or planetary atoms or mineral atoms or animal atoms or plant atoms or whatever they are. They're just, everything is just a living, complicated atom. And love is the unity of all of those as one single life. But because humanity believes, from its absence of love, that its life is separate from all other lives in some way, it loses the connection to love, because love won't agree with that. If you put a barrier up that says, I'm not connected to that person or to that planet or to any energies from Pluto or anything else that you care to separate yourself from, then you're pushing love out of your consciousness. Now, how is that offending love? It's not. It's not offending it. It's simply denying it. And what you deny in a loving universe moves away from you. What you embrace and draw towards you comes towards you. So a universe that's pulling love in will eventually get into gear with it, mature itself to it, and take it on and be transformed or transmuted or unified by it or infused with its grace and become that in the universe. All of it, eventually. And when that happens, then we have a universe of will and intelligence and perfect love. And there you have a universe operating an entirely different way than the universe that we seem to be living in, because we've created this incredibly complex illusion that that's not true. It's just not true. And science validates that's not true. Materialism is true. The spiritual world is not true. So whatever lives in the spiritual world doesn't exist, except in some religious fantasy. And this has been confirmed by everybody, by philosophers and scientists, and Freud himself, who's telling you that love is an emotion, a human emotion, part of the human wish life for something better than what it already has. You see, we've done a tremendous job of negating love's reality in our world because we didn't have it to compare to anything. Had we had it from the beginning, then we would have said, no, there's love right there. See it? Look at it. Look at it working there in that bird building a nest. That's love. That's love at work. We didn't. We just shot the bird and ate it. So we haven't had a good working relationship with love. And if we want one, after all of this, if you just throw rocks at your neighbor and piss him off and shoot his dog and just constantly irritate and demand hostility from them towards you to defend themselves from you. And then suddenly you wake up and go, wow, shit, that our neighbor's really not all that bad. I find out he saved my kid from drowning yesterday, and now I just suddenly love that guy. Well, all of that we have built up over that time doesn't just disappear. It has to be undone. And you may undo it. He may not. He may feel like he's pissed off about the fact that you shot his dog and turned him into the police for things that he didn't do, and did all the things that people do when they swat other people and make all this crazy crap go on because he's not a Republican or not a Democrat or not whatever dumbass thing we don't like. So we've built all these walls. They don't come down simply because you suddenly realize love makes all those walls unreal, which it does, because no wall ever blocked love. It goes wherever it wishes. Wherever you are, there it is. It may not be appearing near you easily. And when you go to places that are very negative, very evil from the past, maybe the guillotine room in London or a place where great tragedy has been occurred, you may feel that it is far from love because the negative energies there from the past shove it all out of consciousness. But it is there. It's your consciousness that is being diminished. Believe me, love is on a battlefield, taking care of all of those who are dying. They are being embraced in their moment of release or tragedy by love. It's always there. So, and I can testify to that from having been on battlefields. So I will tell you that it's not always obvious, but it is there. So what I'm saying is, take it under advisement that the journey from this that we thought was love, that wasn't actually love, it was just a facsimile of it or a reflection of it in our emotional body or our appetite body, to the actual living embrace within us of that entity that is that, all of that, moving with us, is a bit of a journey, and one that each of us must take. No matter what that journey is, we must take it. And this religious idea that the Christians cooked up, that Jesus took all of those rejections of love off of our shoulders, isn't quite the way it's touted. This is vicarious atonement. This is somebody else paying your bill at the butcher. And I don't think that that's how it works. I think what Jesus did was made you capable of having a personal and close relationship with that energy if you want one. But between you and it is all of the things that you have done to reject it in your life, or lives, or with your group, or your family, or your nation, or whatever the hell you did. And if you want to get through all of that, you're going to have to face it, acknowledge it, and work your way through it. And it interferes with us on every single level. What we were raised in our family, our father's prejudice, our mother's ideas of things, this idea that you're a victim of somebody else's choices, all of these things are illusions. You've always had love. Love has always been there to protect and take care of you. And the fact that you have thrown the anchor out of the boat and now you can't anchor it to the bottom of the bay, don't blame that on somebody else. Don't blame it on the wind, because it's blowing your boat and you can't stabilize it. We have done everything to ourselves you could possibly imagine. And by doing it to others, we have done it to ourselves. So while it takes a definite person to abuse someone else, it takes a definite person to be abused. It's two sides of the opposites. And it takes an abuser and it takes an abusee. And we are both of those. You have to believe in both of them before that illusion will work. You have to believe there is a perpetrator before you can be a victim of the crime. Neither one of those are real, not your victimhood nor the perpetrator. Love was real before it was divided into those opposites. And when you return back to love and unify that in yourself, you realize that. And you forgive the perpetrator and you forgive yourself for being a victim. And you embrace love and realize that you are secure in the creative power of the divinity of the universe. And now let's go forward and do something good. See, that's coming. And to some people, it's real already. But for the most of us, it isn't real yet. And so even when we suspect that love is out there a little bit further down the road, we have choices to make to get to it. And that's that space between this and that. And as we get to that, which is love itself, we see all of the reflections of it that we thought were love, and we understand how we fell for it. Now, what are you going to do to get from this to that? And how are you going to put yourself on right relationship with love? Well, you're way out here in this, and you got all this distance to go to that. Well, life has given us things to do that with. First, maybe not necessarily in order, but one of the first on the list that I put there is faith. Faith is the realization that love is real in a pure form. And you have to give yourself the capacity to have it. It's mine. Jesus was a son of God. Yeah, sure, we can have that title. But so are you. So is everyone. There are no humans that are not sons of God. How could there be? It's the creative power of the universe. So we all have in us the same elements that make an acorn an oak tree, that make a human a divinity, such as Jesus or Krishna or Buddha or the Christ or any of those wonderful beings. So faith is not a word, it's a thing that connects you to that which you have faith in yourself with. So that's one thing you can use, and you can develop some intelligent interest in that word to find the meaning behind it, and then the significance behind the meaning. These are different levels of consciousness. There's the word, that's the idol, and then there's the ideal, and then there's the idea, right? Significance, meaning, expression. So this is how we progress upward in consciousness toward the idea that gave faith meaning, that gave us something to redeem ourselves with by having faith in love. It's a very tricky game, but it's like three-dimensional chess in a way. It's vertical and it's horizontal, but you're up to the job. You're not too stupid. You're not too limited. A child can play this game. So start to play. Faith is just one word, one thing. And in addition to that, you have commitment. Commitment is not maybe what you think it is. But commitment has somehow seemingly more solid feel to it than faith does. Faith is a little bit mystical. It's like, I have faith that love is real. But a commitment to love is the application of your resources of energy and self to making that true. I'm committed to proving that to myself. And I am, by the way, committed to making that real in me. As real as it is possible for it to be in me. And so that commitment causes nature to respond to you. If you are putting a demand on a fluid nature, and it's a fluid nature because love is everywhere in it. So you're telling love, I'm committed to you. I'm committed to coming out there and finding you. And I want nature to help me. Now, you don't know what it is in nature that could help you, should it wish to, or should it be invited to or invoked to. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, you see. Great angels, great principles of power, gnomes, sylphs, fairies, I don't know, whatever it is out there that can hear your commitment and be interested by its own relationship to love, to join you in your relationship to it, can create certain things to help you. Something will appear that would have seemed impossible in your mind to imagine showing up for you when you first made your commitment. But nature heard you, and nature knew you were going to need this at a certain time in a certain way, because for us, that we don't see the future is only because we're not looking through the eyes of love. The eyes of love sees the future perfectly because it knows what it's doing. It's creating it, and it's creating from a purpose born inside of it from life itself when it sent it forth. So when we have love in us as a conscious part of our agency, then we'll see that future as easily as love does. And we'll see it far better than we see the past, which is simply a impression on our brain of something that happened once upon a time. Uh-oh. Oh. One of my sidekicks was saying they missed my... That's the trouble. See, Taylor's in Hawaii and Seb works late sometimes. So I have to continue to stride forward in my own commitments so that it can draw to what we're doing, which is developing a working system for a average human being to apply themselves to making the distance between them and love as short as possible, with the least amount of stress and the most amount of use of time. And I believe that with right approach, that time can be shortened dramatically. And you can begin right from the beginning of the process through commitment. At the beginning of the process, you can have powers of love entering into your experience and causing changes that you need to witness. You need to see that it's effective. You need to see that love is responding. So it does respond. And it shows you, wow, things are working here. This is getting better. And that's going to be really needed now because the world is collapsing around us in these very strange ways. And it is only the power of love that is going to lift it up into a constructive and beautiful future. But not if we don't have faith in it, not if we don't commit to it, not if we don't have a belief in it, and then by effort and energy, prove it. And when we prove it, it becomes knowing. And when something becomes knowing, it has an automatic expression in you. This is the great difference between Pisces, which was the last age we went through, and Aquarius, which is the next stage we're in. Sorry about my crickets. That's Taylor again telling me something. Doesn't matter what it is. I usually turn off the phone, but because they might have wanted to join in this, I left it on. But it's getting far into the game here, so I'll probably just cut it off here in a minute. So there are ropes you can throw forward to the future, and love will grab hold of it. It'll grab hold of commitment, and super nature will come to your aid. It will, absolutely will. You may miss some of the help that comes to you because you were looking the other side of the car out the other window when you drove right by it. And we're that blind and dumb. I certainly am. You know, you can say, God, if I just had a shovel, I could dig my way out of this. And we're looking out the window this way and we drive by someone that says free shovels all over the big giant sign, free shovels. And we just don't see the sign. But if karma wants you to have the shovel, you'll get a flat tire right in front of the stand. If it doesn't want you to have the shovel because you have lost your right to a shovel until you develop more respect for it by having done something in the past, then you won't see that sign no matter what. And learning how that works is a great improvement in our outlook because it allows you to relax and take what's coming to you and then meet it with creative love. I'm going to get through. If I have karma coming at me, I can't ask Jesus or someone else to take it away from me. No one's going to take it away from you. You're going to have to face it and overcome it and go, wow, I must have thrown a shovel away once because I'm digging with my hands. I sure respect the idea of a shovel, and I wish that had not happened, and I wish I had a shovel right now. I really, really do. You see, forgiving yourself, giving yourself gratitude, pursuing some of the positive impacts of love towards your own absence of a shovel, and before you know it, someone will stroll up to you and go, man, I got a shovel in my car. Why don't I give it to you? And you can dig that hole better than you're doing now. And then you look up and go, thanks. And we can be mad about the fact that we didn't have the shovel, or we can be grateful for the fact that one showed up, or we can be amazed that life could be so intelligent and so willing and so heartfelt that someone could give away their shovel to you just because you need it and they right now don't. Now, that's just how it works. And we barely know how it works, but we kind of understand it. So what I'm saying to you is you may see 1,000 years of your effort to get close to love because you've been such a jerk. But that doesn't mean you can't have it helping you right now by your commitment to make that journey, no matter what it takes. And to take everyone with you that you possibly can, and to help everyone on the way that you possibly can, even if they're people you do not like. Because it's love that will fix all of them the way it's fixing us. And you can look at somebody and go, that person's beyond redemption. Yep, no, there's no way to fix Charlie Manson. He's gone for good. Well, you can make that kind of judgment, but surprisingly, love doesn't do that. It simply continues to love Charlie until Charlie finally at some point says, you know, I really would like to have a pet, maybe a pet dog or a pet cat, just something to make me feel a little better. And that opens a little chink in the armor for love, and it can be grown by love back to a mighty tree. So don't think someone's beyond redemption because they have committed heinous crimes or great faults. Anything can be restored. Anything can be rebuilt. And we don't have to make judgments about it. We just work on our own faults, which is why that little expression is in the Bible somewhere about the mote in your, or the beam in your eye and the mote in someone else's. So carry on with this, but take a look at the idea that the distance between you and the empowerment of love can be empowered by love. When you realize that what the powers are of love are not in your conscious experience, you're not realizing what transformation means or transmutation means or what unity with all other things would give you. You're unconscious of those powers in love, so you aren't giving yourself those abilities, but love can give them to you. It can bring them to you. There's lots of things in nature that respond to love, things that you would think would be less important than you are. But if it gives you what you need, that doesn't make it less important. Angels don't look for credit. They simply respond to impulses from greater angelic beings and do things according to the laws of love. And one of those may be to help you through a situation. Now, you can call that an angelic response, and some people do, or you can call it fate, or you can call it good luck. They don't care. Head for love and take advantage of every single thing that supports that commitment, and you will realize at a certain point in the journey that you're creating the journey. And you're creating, these coincidences would never have been invented by life, never have surfaced to the active level of things without your commitment to make that journey. And if something sets you back or slows you down, then that's just part of the story. It's your part of your story. So paring away the BS of life and getting down to things that work can really speed things up, which is what we do at the Love Foundry. That's the idea behind it. Bring it down to something that will get you into a posture in relationship to this story of love that makes you constantly growing every day in its power and potential and positive influence. I work to do that, not all the time, because I sometimes just screw up, lose my focus, but I always come back to it, or at least I have for this lifetime, because I know that's the journey I'm on. And I want it to get invincible, stronger, mightier, victorious, all that good stuff. And there are those who don't want that for me and will actually try to interfere with me, try to take my money, take my goods, take my life. I don't care about them. I don't worry about them. I'm on my way to something eternal, immortal, and endless. And when it is in my hands and in my body and in my power, I will be able to take more rest with it. And I'd like that for all of you. So we'll have these conversations because it's only by opening up to greater ideas about how all this works in a practical, human, and uniform way that we can begin then to see that we can own that. We can build on that. We can make something good out of it. And it isn't easy to see. Why does someone go viral? Why does someone decide they're going to do something that isn't seemingly appropriate to their life? Why do people do things like this? But that's part of the story. It's part of the journey, and it all has purpose and meaning. And we don't have to make judgments about that. We simply have to work on our completion with love. And then their completion will be obvious to us. And we will see that there is nothing wrong. There's nothing that we have the right to make judgments about. There's certain conduct we can eliminate in our space because we don't like people peeing on our front yard, or we don't like people stealing our mail, or we don't like people doing things that harm other people. And so we can ask them to not do that, and we can make it plain that we don't want them to do that. And if they can't stop themselves from doing it, then we separate them from society. We put them somewhere where we can have a conversation with them in a positive light, in a healthful way, that they eventually realize, oh, they don't have to do that. There is no need for them to steal your mail. They can put themselves on mailing lists and get all kinds of mail. They can receive all the good of the universe to themselves the same way we can. And when you've got your own coming to you because of your relationship to love, you don't need to try to steal someone else's. The idea of getting love from someone else is just one of those basic illusions. You don't need to get love from Joni down the street or Bob. You have it to give. You can share love with each other doing good work, but you don't need it from someone else. It's nice when someone loves you. That's always good. It shows that they have the capacity to love, and you have the capacity to receive it. High five. But because it's in you, you don't have to go seeking it. You don't have to look for what you've never lost. You just have to open up your relationship to it and start applying it to others and to yourself. It's really that simple. It's always been that simple. It's embarrassing that we've gone this far as a human race and haven't figured it out yet, but it's been a difficult problem. We don't even know what the problem was, and we're still suffering from it millions of years later. So it's time we figured it out. It's time we said, okay, we're here for a reason. Let's work on building a bridge to love. Build a bridge to love, and love will cross it right into you and right through you into a lot of other things. And a small part of humanity building that bridge starts giving that to everybody. And then they go, oh, wow, I can build my own bridge. Yes, you can. Or I'll help you with mine. And pretty soon we're not at war with each other. We're struggling towards the same goal. All right. So the distance between where you are now and the power of love in you, that's can be shortened into an action with love through commitment that gives you love's power in a beginning way right now and start lifting you up out of whatever the difficulty is you're having. Not by believing in God or believing in Christ or believing in Jesus or believing in the horse fairy or tooth fairy or some other fairy. Just act towards love, knowing it's real and wanting it in you. And then take the action that comes to your mind. That's all there is to it. And how come all these things get in the way of us doing that? Because we don't have good teachers. We don't have good educators. And you see right now that Harvard and these great universities are under failure markers because they're not teaching what will actually liberate humanity. They've lost the plot. They were teaching a lot of materialistic solutions to things, like business, but then they went off into the business of creating a philosophy that will end in failure, imposing identity laws on people, imposing regulations on people, taking power from outside and imposing it on people to get them to do what someone else thinks is right or wrong, violates love, because love does not violate free will. It doesn't care to, it doesn't need to, it doesn't want to. But if you want it to, then you're separating yourself from it. So these universities are failing. Then they better come to their senses and find curriculums founded on love that generate givingness and positiveness and heroism in people, or they're going to be as obsolete as whatever was passing for a university before this all got started. Because this civilization that we're in right now, it's on the way out. And the one that's coming in will have love as a secure foundation in it that we are learning how to apply. So be on board. It's the future, might as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for giving some time to opening up, thinking about what will become the common understanding in the near and evident future. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to see you next time.